Hi guys, Joseph Sampa here. I'm going to give you 5 reasons as to why I joined the Seventh Day Adventist Church. My first reason is that I was looking for truth, and I'm going to read a passage for you from the book of John 17 verse 17, and it says, Jesus says, "Sanctify them through thy truth, thy word is truth." So I was looking for a church that teaches about all aspects of the Bible, not bringing in tradition, but teaching about everything that's in there, not avoiding some and removing some. My second reason for joining the church is I was looking for a church that keeps the 7th day Sabbath, Saturday, which is what we call Saturday today. Now I know most of you think that Sunday is the 7th day, but it's not. Sunday is actually a day in which pagans worship the sun back in ancient times. So Saturday has always been the 7th day. Jesus and the Jews and the disciples that followed him always kept the Sabbath as Saturday. I'm going to read a verse for you from Leviticus 23 verse 3, which says, 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. Convocation is just another word for assembly or meeting. You shall do no work therein. It is a Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. So here we're told that the Sabbath day is a day of rest, and we're supposed to do no work in it, but we're supposed to meet as an assembly of people, just like the way Seventh Adventists meet as church members. Now the Sabbath doesn't mean that you just stay home and do nothing and sit doing nothing and just I don't know. You can do work. It's not limited. Jesus said it's lawful to do good work on the Sabbath. It doesn't mean you just sit and do nothing. You meet at church, you worship God. It just means you put everything, the worldly things aside, and focus on God. My third reason for joining the church was prophecy. I was looking for a church that teaches about the prophecies in the Bible, all aspects of it, whether it be Daniel or Revelation, things like the mark of the beast, the seal of God, what the beasts in Revelation represent, what's going to happen in the end, the trumpets, the 3 angels' messages, all those things that confuse people. As I grew in the church, I came to understand what they mean and how beasts represent kingdoms. So I was looking for a church that teaches all aspects of that. First Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 20 to 21 says that, "Do not despise prophesying, but hold fast to that which is good." So in short, the verse is telling us that we shouldn't push away prophecy, but we should embrace it and hold on to it and study it more than we're supposed to. My fourth reason for joining the church was baptism. Now, most churches practice the normal baptism that I'm going to talk about, but some churches practice baptism by sprinkling babies and all that. But I was looking for a church that practices the baptism of the Bible, the one that happened where people would be baptized by immersion, being dipped into the water and being brought out. The same baptism that Jesus went through in Mark chapter 1 verse 9 to 10. Let me just find the verse. Mark 1 verse 9 to 10. Oh, here it is. Mark chapter 1 verse 9 to 10, it says, "And it came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, and was baptized of John in the river Jordan. And straightway coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens opened, and the Spirit like a dove descending upon him." So we see that when Jesus is coming up out of the water, it means he had to be in the water for him to come up out of the water. So we see Jesus coming up out of the water, and the Spirit of God descends upon him like a dove. So he had to be in the water, not that John sprinkled water on him. Now I'm not saying only the Seventh Adventist Church practices this. Baptist churches and other churches also practice it by immersion, but that's just one of the reasons why I joined the church. My fourth reason for joining the church is the 10 Commandments. Now, you hear things like, "We're under grace, we're no longer under the law," or "the law was nailed to the cross." But people often make a mistake. You see, in the Old Testament, there were 3 laws. There were civil laws, ceremonial laws, and the moral law, which is the 10 Commandments of God. The moral law is the 10 Commandments, which still stand today. The civil law of Moses and the ceremonial laws were the ones that were nailed to the cross. Those are the ones Jesus took away. Those are the ones that were no longer under. Because when you read further in Paul's writings, he says the law that was against us. The 10 Commandments aren't against us. The 10 Commandments are here to help us. So if we're no longer under the law, and under grace, that simply means I can steal, I can lie, I can no longer keep the Sabbath, I can worship any other God. That's basically what people are saying. But the Ten Commandments are still a guide for us. And if the Ten Commandments were done away with, why would Jesus in Revelation 22 verse 14 say, John rather in Revelation 22 verse 14 said, "Blessed are those that keep the commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life." So you have to keep the commandments in order to enter into heaven, through the gates into the city. Jesus also said in John 14 verse 15 that if you love me, keep my commandments. Now if Jesus is going to take the Ten Commandments away, why would he say that in advance? When you read the writings of Solomon in Ecclesiastes, I think chapter 12 if I'm not mistaken, he says we should keep the commandments of God, for this is the whole duty of man. Now if this is our duty, why would God take them away? God would have given us a warning before taking them away. Now I know most of you think that I'm preaching works and that was saved by works. That's not what I'm saying. Ephesians 2 verse 8 to 9, let me just get there, tells us that we're saved by grace. And that's what Seventh Day Adventists believe. We're not saved by works. In Ephesians chapter 2 verse 8 to 9 says, "For by grace you are saved through faith, and not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast." So I'm not saying that you have to work yourself to get into heaven. We're saved by grace, just like the Bible tells us, but we keep the commandments out of love for God, because it said, if you love me, keep my commandments. And also when we read throughout the entire Bible, we see that we're saved by grace, but every time Jesus says, "I'm coming quickly," we see that he's going to judge us according to our works. So keeping the commandments isn't a burden on people. It's the way we show that we love God. We say we love God, so we have to prove it by keeping the commandments. He said, if you love me, keep the commandments. Now again, we're saved by grace, so don't get me wrong. We're not saved by works. But keeping the commandments is the whole duty of man, as Solomon tells us. So those are my 5 reasons as to why I joined the Seventh Day Adventist Church. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, you can place them in the comment section below. The next video I'm going to make will be focusing on Jesus. Is Jesus the Son of God? Is he God himself? Is he God made in the flesh? So all these are questions that people ask, and that's what I'm going to tackle next in my next video. Thank you. Follow me on Twitter or on Facebook. I'll leave some details behind.